Hello and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Ronald Veen for sending in some awesome pictures of his Cadian 619th. Absolutely fantastic. Chimera 53 Henry supports the Grenadiers of the 619th. Really crisp, cool, beautiful Cadian scheme here. And I have said it once, I've said it many times, I love a good classic Cadian scheme if it is done well. Good bit of green and tan, and this just looks really good. So thank you for sending these pictures in, Ronald. They look absolutely fantastic. If anyone else has got any cool pictures that they want me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. Now, I did say this was going to be an Imperial Guard Tactics video, but that was actually a bit of a lie. In fact, this is going to be a Genestealer cult tactics video. But for some of the more adventurous, liberal, open-minded, heretical guard players out there, there will be some useful tidbits of information. So keep your eyes peeled and your ears tuned, because we're going to actually go into some interesting Genestealer cult tactics now. Now, if you were to read forums online, watch battle reports, listen to other YouTubers, you would get the general impression that Genestealer cult are totally in the toilet, almost unplayable, just as dead as a dodo. See you later when the next codex comes out, whenever it comes out. I'm here to argue that that's not entirely the case. Genestealer cult are not top tier. They're not an elite infantry army like Marines, so they don't quite fit into the meta of 9th, but they are not in the toilet. They are not unplayable. In fact, I've played a game in my Genestealer cult and I've won. So that you can do it. It's just you're going to have to change your way of thinking if you're a classic Genestealer cult player. And some of what I'm going to talk about now, some of my long-time viewers will have heard similar things before, because I'm a big proponent of playing the Genestealer cult like an Imperial Guard faction. And I think in 9th edition, that's where the key to success lies when you're playing your cult. Because the units that are well known have kind of been nerfed into the toilet, like aberrants and hybrid metamorphs, and acolyte, combat acolytes. A lot of these units have been so massively just hit with the nerf bat with points increases that it makes the army just, you're not even a horde army, and you've got the durability of a horde army but the model count of elite army if you try and play Genestealer cult in a classic way. Like I said, the key is to start thinking about this from a guard perspective, aka you want to be looking at the shooting Genestealer cult army and taking advantage of a couple of unique things that you can do that other horde armies can't do. So we're going to get into that now. So first thing you're going to want to do is, like I said, is basically not think of yourself as a combat faction anymore. You are now a shooting faction. If you want to do well, you're going to have to shoot the enemy to death. I know that kind of goes against what a lot of Genestealer cult players want to do, but bear with me. The problem with your combat units is that they're not durable enough. Flat out, they just die. Okay, one bad round of combat will see your very expensive combat troops getting their faces beaten in by intercessors and tactical marines, because you charge them so they get an extra attack, but you don't because you're cult. So you're not a combat army anymore. You pay too much for units that are not durable enough. Aberrants now, for 10 aberrants with just a couple of hammers and a couple of improvised weapons, you're paying 370 points plus. Even if you take all picks, you're still paying over 300 points. They're just too expensive. And at the end of the day, guys, they're only toughness 4 and they only have a 5+ save. Yeah, they've got some other funky stuff in there, like, oh, they've got a 5+ feel no pain, and oh, they reduce damage by 1. But you know what? That doesn't mean shit anymore, because everyone's turning up to the battlefield with loads of melter and other ridiculously multi-wound damage weapons, and they just clean through your aberrants like they're not even there. Okay, so aberrants aren't durable enough, and you're paying a premium for a durability that doesn't exist, because in a faction that is generally not durable, any source of durability you pay to the nose for. Acolyte hybrids, likewise. They might be on 32mm bases, but at the end of the day, you're paying a stupid amount of points for what is basically a guardsman in terms of durability. It's got 1 wound and it's got a 5+ save. No thank you. Hybrid metamorphs, same deal. So all your combat characters, all your combat units are bad. Okay, they're overcosted in points. You then look at things like the Patriarch, solid combat unit, 150 points for a big Genestealer. That's not ideal. That's not ideal in anyone's world. It's good for having the fearlessness, and it's good for having a bit of psychic power. But at the end of the day, it's just not ideal. I mean, I may still recommend taking a Patriarch as part of your cult guard force, but only the one. Gone are the days of running more than one Patriarch. Jesus Christ, you want to run 3 Patriarchs, you're paying 450 points. No thanks, that's a bit expensive. So, what didn't get hit too hard by the nerf bat? Well, you know what didn't get hit too hard? Neophyte hybrids. They went at 1 point. You know what's interesting about neophyte hybrids is that some of their mining weapons actually went down in points. Specifically, the mining laser went down to 10 points. I think it was 16, maybe 14 points beforehand. It went down in points. That's really good. So actually, the standard neophyte punchy squad, by punchy I mean good punching firepower, only went up by 10 points. In 8th edition, 2 grenade launchers and 2 mining lasers would put you at 80 points for the squad. Now, it's only 90 points. That's not bad. That's not a huge increase. Okay? So, that's already seeing how like, ooh, that's kind of missed the nerf bat that everything else got. You know, your truck, your basic truck, that's still really cheap. You know, I think it's basic truck's gone up by I think 10 points, but it's still very affordable. So overall, and your basic truck has got a boost because guess what? It can now move and shoot without penalty. So it's kind of like it's got a cult trait finally. Kind of. It's like it's got the Cult of the Bladed Cog trait, which can move and shoot with heavy weapons. Hasn't got the 6 of Inrun, but it can move and shoot just by the way that 9th edition rules have changed. So that's good. So you've got a good Shooty unit, which you can put in a cheap, durable Shooty transport. Because twin autocannon, it ain't bad. Because guess what? It's multi-damage. 9th edition is all about that multi-damage, guys. If it does 2 damage, you want it in your list. Manning lasers do multiple damage, D6 damage. Grenade launchers, multiple damage, D3 damage. That's good. Heavy stuff is not great on the truck, but it's still slinging out some shots at 36's range, which are no longer having a bad time. And don't forget, you can now fight in combat. You can now get up close and personal with your trucks, and they can, if you put a cache of demo charges on them, they can put out D6 battle cannon shots. I think it's even better than a battle cannon. It's AP-3 D6 damage. So I just want to check that. I do not want to be lying about the cache of demo charges. It is good, but let's get it right. It's D3. It's strength 8, AP-3, D3 damage. Now it is only a 6-inch range. So you really have to get up close and personal. But it's 10 points to give yourself a really close range battle cannon. Not too shabby. So you've got some access to some good weapons there. Another thing you want, now the Achilles ridgerunner did go up in points. So if you were one of the people that was spamming 9 of them, you're not going to have a great time anymore. But they're still cheap enough to be able to take a couple of them. You know, 2 to 3 Achilles ridgerunners, they're still good. They still get D3 manning laser shots. Now, what's really important about Gene? So you've still got access to relatively cheap vehicles, which importantly have 10 wounds or less. The problem with guard vehicles is any guard vehicle that does any amount of damage, like a Lehman Russ or a Manticore or anything like that, has over 10 wounds, which means it is just bait for someone taking Big Game Hunter against you. It is just bad. It is bad to take those units. Most Genestealer cult vehicles only have 10 wounds or less, which means you only give up 2 points for Big Game Hunter for the secondary objective. So it's actually, you know, you can take the same amount of vehicles. You can take 5 vehicles in a guard list or 5 vehicles in a Genestealer cult list, and if you consider those trucks with guys inside as like a mobile battle bunker vehicle, like it's a tank, you don't think of it as a transport, you think of it as a shooting unit, and you can take 5 trucks which can each put out 4 autocannon shots, 2 grenade launcher shots, 2 mining laser shots, and a handful of autogun and heavy stubber rounds. You can take all that in a fairly cost-effective package. You're looking at under 200 points. And even if you kill the truck, the guys inside get to spill out and keep doing damage. So in that package, you're looking at 20 wounds, but it only gives up 1 bring it down point or 2 thin the rank points. 1 for the squad, 1 for the thing. That's it. So it's not that bad. Okay, so or you look at a Lima Russ Tank Commander, which will be putting out, which will has only got 12 wounds. Okay, you might say, yeah, but it's got more toughness and a better armor save. Well, you know what? In a world where eradicators exist, having toughness and armor save doesn't really mean shit anymore. Doesn't really mean anything. So, truck actually kind of in a funny sort of way has a good bonus. So it's cheaper to take one of these shooting units, and it gives it less points, and it puts out just as much firepower. You might say, yeah, won't those units be hitting on 4s? Would be, unless you take into account the fact that you can take the Jackal Alphas. And the Jackal Alphas gives everyone, you pick an enemy unit, and everyone within 6 inches of her gets +1 to hit. So suddenly, those battle boxes, which are putting out lots of firepower, like I said, 4, you can basically say, if you count grenade launchers as autocannon shots, just for simplicity, you've got 6 autocannon shots, you've got 2 mining laser shots, and you've got your 6 autogun shots, and your close range 12 autocannon shots, and you've got your heavy stubber for cheap. Okay, so they've got shooting that can hit on 3+. Now, the Jackal Alphas' ability affects the units in the truck. Okay, some people will argue that it doesn't. Those people are wrong. The open top rule specifically states any modifiers that affect the truck affect the passengers. Now, what I reckon that's meant to mean is if the truck moves, and back in 8th edition, if the truck moves, it got a -1. The passengers technically count as moving, and they got a -1. But it says all modifiers that affect the truck affect the passengers. So if the truck is being affected by a +1 to hit modifier from the Jackal Alphas, then the passengers are affected by a +1 to hit modifier from the Jackal Alphas. Rules as written. No one can argue with that. Okay? So you've got access to cheap, durable trucks, which have got decent firepower, which you can augment with units that can shoot at the top, which you can augment the whole bally bunch of them with a Jackal Alphas. It keeps getting interesting, guys. Psychic Awakening has given Genestealer Cult some decent buffs. I know a lot of people said it was the weakest of Psychic Awakening, but there is some interesting things in there if you approach it from a shooting perspective. For example, there's a stratagem for 1 CP to increase the range of the Jackal Alphas' +1 to hit ability to 18 inches. That will affect a whole castle of people. That's really, really good. Very powerful. So you've got these trucks, you've got these Achilles Ridgerunners. The Achilles Ridgerunners, you can take them in a unit of 3, and you can apply. There's a stratagem called Raking Fire for 1 CP. Okay, so which for 1 CP, which gives those heavy stubbers on those Achilles Ridgerunners +1 to hit, +1 to wound. Now, if you've got a unit of 3, that is 6 heavy stubbers. That's 18 shots. Now they're going to get +1 to hit. If you have a Jackal Alphas around, that's another +1 to hit. Now obviously they can only hit on 2, get +1 because of 9th edition. But if someone has a -1, it allows you to counter it with another +1. If you're shooting through dense terrain, it's another +1. So it still works, guys. So you can get, but also what it means is those units don't necessarily have to rely upon a Jackal Alphas. They can be a little bit more independent. So if you're crowding your trucks around Jackal Alphas, your Achilles Ridgerunners, if they're going to be putting a lot of anti-infantry duty, you can use them independently. Or it means you can have the mining lasers in range of a Jackal Alphas to get the +1 to hit to shoot a big target, and you can shoot your heavy stubbers at another target and get another +1 to hit, and you're not restricted by the Jackal Alphas ability. What I'm saying is flexibility. 18 shots, strength hitting on 3. That's going to start laying some fire. So start laying some serious fire down range. +1 to hit, +1 to wound. You're going to start stacking wounds on. Means you're winning Primaris on 3s. It's not bad. That's 12. If you're not getting any rerolls, and you can get reroll ones to hit if you want to take into account Hive Cult Warlord trait, but you can take reroll. You can get 12 hits, and then you're going to get 8 wounds. That is a couple of dead Primaris Marines right there. Easy. It's not bad. It's doable. And that's Primaris which are tough. It's not ideal. What I'm saying is, it's 1 CP to basically make those heavy stubbers do nothing to kill something. And that's not bad. Don't forget, you're going to have an average of 6 heavy manning laser shots coming from those vehicles as well. Last thing I want to mention is the Goliath Rock Grinder. In terms of units, you've got the I've got a few of these I want to mention actually. You've got the Goliath Rock Grinder. Now the Goliath Rock Grinder traditionally is you want to slam it into combat and it's going to have a great time. The Goliath Rock Grinder can also kind of pull duty as a durable light tank. So the Goliath Rock Grinder has toughness 7, which is actually pretty good for a Genestealer Cult vehicle, and it's still only got 10 wounds, which means it doesn't give away too many bring it down points. And what have we said about 9th edition? It's not necessarily about scoring. You'll get your primaries if you just dogpile objectives. It's about not giving up objectives, and that's what the Goliath Rock Grinder does. It doesn't give up many bring it down points. It can also take a heavy mining laser, which you can take on your Achilles Ridgerunner. Great, but it means you can get access to more of them here. Okay, and a Goliath Rock Grinder with a heavy mining laser is only 110 points. Or you can take the heavy seismic cannon. You get that into half range. You're looking at 3 shots, strength 8, AP -2, flat 3 damage. Flat 3 damage, guys. What is rocking the meta at the moment? Eradicators. Heavy mining lasers, they have to get within 12-inch range. But those Eradicators, they're going to be coming on outflank. So you can move up and you can shoot them. Now previously, considering heavy mining lasers and heavy seismic cannons were just on Goliath Rock Grinders was silly because they got -1 to hit, they moved and shoot, so everyone took the Clearance Incinerator. The Clearance Incinerator is only strength 5, AP -1 damage. Oh, 1 damage in this meta? Let's move on. You either want the heavy mining laser or you want the heavy seismic cannon. The weapon on the big drill, dozer blade on the front, that strikes at strength 9. It's AP -2, it's D3 damage, so that's good at clearing through those multi-wound infantry we keep finding ourselves having to deal with. It could also make an extra D3 attacks on the turn it charges, which means on average this thing rocks 8 attacks on the turn that it charges. It's not bad. It's not bad at all, guys. Now, what's really important about all these Genestealer Cult vehicles, something that they have over the Imperial Guard, is the fact that they all have a 6+ feel no pain. You've got the rugged construction on the trucks and the rock grinders, and you've got the flare launcher on the Achilles Ridgerunner. Now previously 6 feel no pain wasn't much to write home about, and a lot of people would argue that it's better to have a 3+ save than a 6 feel no pain. Not anymore. In an age of Melter and AP -4 bullshit marine plasma, having a 3+ save often means you don't have a save. But with Genestealer Cult vehicles, they always have a 6 up. No matter what you throw at them, no matter how much damage it is, if it's mortal wounds, no matter what it is, it's got a 6-up feel no pain. You stick this thing in cover, it's got a nice 3+ regular save, and it can be durable to small arms, but not take small arms anymore. But against all those multi-wound damage weapons that everyone's rocking around these days, having a 6-up feel no pain is extremely valuable. It can't be overstated. Most guard players would sell their left nut if every single guard vehicle basically got a 6-up feel no pain and just didn't change any of it. That would do, you know. Might not get invulnerable saves, but having some sort of rugged construction across the whole guard army would do. Well, guess what? Genestealer have it. So guard players take note. So when you put it all together, and we haven't covered everything here, guys. We haven't covered everything. Another couple of bits which is interesting is in an age where Premier is starting to get their hands on invulnerable saves, Genestealer have access to a couple of nice psychic powers, or psychic characters, that can really lay the mortal wounds on the line. In fact, what I really like doing is taking a Magus and spending 1 CP to give her the stratagem from Psychic Awakening, which allows them to cast an additional power every turn. And what I do is I take a Magus who casts Smite and Psychic Blast every single turn. Now, some of you might be like, what's Psychic Blast? It's basically a pseudo Smite. Okay, Psionic Blast, I should say. It's not quite as good, but basically it's only warp charge value 5, so it's going off. It's a Broodmind Discipline power, so it benefits if you take the Crouchling. It means it goes off on a 4+, which is really good. Crouchling is a relic that gives you +1 to Broodmind powers. You select an enemy unit within 18 inches and you roll 2d6. If the result is less than the highest leadership character in that unit, it was 1 mortal wound, but otherwise it was D3 mortal wound. So it's normally only do 1 extra mortal wound, but you can do that every turn. It's going off on a 4 or a 5, depending on if you have the Crouchling. So you take this and you smite every turn and you Psionic Blast every turn. You've got a Psycho that's putting out an average of 3 mortal wounds every turn. Well, guess what? That's a dead Eradicator. That's a dead Terminator every single turn. She only has to do that for 2 turns and she gets her points back. I say she because I like to do this with my female Magus, and I like to call her Karen, and I like to imagine she's screeching at the Marines, "I want to see your manager," and they're like, "No!" and they're dying. That's why I call it the Karen. The Karen is my favourite psycho at the moment because it's just cheap and it just puts on a lot of mortal wounds. You know, don't forget, you've also got access to Mental Onslaught, which is a great way of doing a lot of mortal wounds to a single target. You have Mind Control, which allows you to turn these enemy units on each other. You have Smite. You just have good old-fashioned Smite, which you can do a couple of times, a couple of Maguses, and you're having a great time. So there's loads of other little things you can do with your Genestealer cult. So you can take the old biker bomb stratagem, which is where you take 5 bikes, you give them 5 demo charges, and you use the extra explosive stratagem so they can throw 5 demo charges. Now normally they'd only hit on 4s, but you combine that with that stratagem in the Psychic Awakening, which lets you extend the range to 18 inches on your I think it goes to 24 inches when you do it with Athlan Jackals as well. And that means you can, from 24 inches away, 18 to 24 inches away, you can give your biker bomb +1 to hit against a certain unit. That's really good. And they're cheap. So again, that's bonuses to your shooting. Okay? Really powerful bonuses to your shooting. So when you add it all together, you have decent vehicles which point for point are durable and come with a feel no pain, which is extra important in the current meta. You have infantry, which hasn't really changed, apart from, it's barely changed in terms of points increases, but puts out good firepower. You have the ability to get +1 to hit from multiple sources. You can either get it from stratagems or you can get it from Jackal Alphases. If you go Hive Cult, you can get access to reroll 1s in the shooting phase, and you can get access to chilling efficiency, which is another way of getting +1 to hit against another target. So if you've got a couple of Jackal Alphases and you're running Hive Cult, that's 3 enemy targets that you can put +1 to hit on. Now previously in 8th, only being able to put +1 to hit against 1 enemy unit wasn't ideal because a lot of people were running Hordes. But now people, they are running MSU, but they're running small units of hyper elite, hyper durable units. So now just giving a +1 to a couple of units from a couple of Jackal Alphases, yeah, you have to take 2 detachments. But that's probably all you're going to want to do is concentrate on 2 units. So you want to concentrate on 2 units, and just blast them to death. Get them off the objectives and move on to those objectives yourself. So you've got that, you've got decent psychers. Now what's really important, the last thing that sort of pulls it all together is the cult creeds. Okay, my cult creeds are basically like regimental doctrines for the guard commanders out there. The one that I'm looking at, there's 3 that come to mind for me. Okay, 2 from the book, 1 is a custom trait. Okay, I think that the Hive Cult Discipline Militants is really powerful. Okay, not so much. Basically, it allows you to fall back and still shoot, which is, yes, it is at a -1, but again, modifiers have been capped now, so it's not really a big deal. So you can shoot, fall back and shoot at -1, but also you only take half casualties for running away, a bit like Valhallans. And with that means you can take bigger 20-man squads. And don't forget, the way morale has changed in 9th edition, bigger squads actually run away less now. It's weird, but they do. And you can take neophyte hybrids in 20-man squads. Which means if you don't necessarily have to take 2 detachments to get all the infantry that you want. You can just take them in 20-man squads. But so the main reason I like the Hive Cult for Discipline Militants is more their stratagem for the +1 to hit. Gives you another way of getting +1 to hit against another target. But also for their Warlord trait, which gives you reroll 1s to wound from within 6 inches of the Warlord. Which is really, really good. It's called Hive Lord. Hive Lord for the Hive Cult. I think that's good. Hive Cult used to be my go-to and was doing some work at some tournaments at the end of 8th. However, I think the go-to now is the Bladed Cog. Because it allows all your infantry to move and shoot heavy weapons with no penalty. Which means if you've got guys in the back of those battle bus trucks and those trucks are moving around, no one's having any penalties to move and shoot. Great. More importantly though, it gives all your infantry a 6+ invulnerable save. Oh mama. That's really good. You see, people used to look at Rusted Claw and be like, ignore AP, you get +1 to save if you get shot by AP 0 or AP -1. Well, guess what? No one's shooting you with AP -1 anymore, or AP nothing. People are hitting you with hard guns every time. It's Melter, it's Plasma, it's AP -2 bolt rifles at the very minimum. Guess what? I'd like a 6+ invulnerable save against all that stuff. Thank you very much. If you combine that with, now the reason I like Bladed Cog is you can kind of combine, you can get a 6+ feel no pain as well by taking an Acolyte Icon Ward who is an HQ choice. So that means you have vehicles which have got a 6+ feel no pain, and the infantry that gets out of those vehicles can have a 6+ feel no pain and a 6+ invulnerable save. But also, what's really good is the Acolyte Icon Ward lets you reroll morale tests. Now back in 8th, that wasn't a big deal because if you just lost too many casualties, you were going to fail the test automatically. But now having a reroll is very important because it allows you to try and reroll it into a 1, which is an automatic pass. It's not bad at all. Getting a reroll to morale now is actually quite nice, and getting it on a character that also gives you a 6 of feel no pain, but barely costs more than a Deathcore Creed Quartermaster. That's kind of good. It's like a Quartermaster, but also helps with the morale. Sweet. So I like those 2. I think, like I said, Bladed Cog is the best. The only other one that I would consider is the custom trait, and it's the one that gives you AP. It's called AP ammo. If you're within half range, your auto guns are AP -1. That is not to be underestimated, guys, at all. Problem with what have I said in previous videos? Problem with lasguns is there's no AP. There's no AP, so you can fire millions and millions of shots. It never does anything. AP -1 on your auto guns when you're in half range is really good, especially for cult, because you can just cult ambush within half range. And that's fine. You can just do that, no problem. AP -1. Imagine you've had an AP -1 on your las guns. You'd love it. You'd absolutely love it. So AP -1 on auto guns is pretty good. You also get it on heavy stubbers if they're in half range. And that's an 18-inch range. And you know what's weird? You can really cram the heavy stubbers into the Genestealer cult lists. If you're finding that you're taking plenty of mining lasers between your rock grinders and your ridge runners, and you think the autocannons are doing work for you and the grenade launchers are doing work for you, you can take a couple of heavy stubbers. And they're really cheap heavy stubbers. I mean, they were 2 points, they've gone up to 5 points, but that'll probably change, to be honest. But it's still cheaper than paying 10 points for a mining laser. And you get that heavy stubber in half range, it's AP -1. That's really good. The main reason I like it is because it just means your autoguns aren't poop, and you have a lot of autoguns in this army. Well, you have at least 6 per squad, maybe more. It means you can take a big block of like 20 neophytes, just drop them in, and there's 40 shots at AP -1 or something, and you can still get a +1 to hit because you'll probably be able to get a Jackal Alphas or a Chilling Efficiency or something off that gives you +1 to hit. So I like that, and then you can combine it with the Workers Arisen, which gives all your mining weapons reroll hits. So yeah, if you move and shoot in those trucks, you will be at -1, but you can get +1 from your Jackal Alphas, and then you can get full rerolls, which is full rerolls is better than just hitting on 3s. Hitting on 4s with full rerolls is better than hitting on 3s with no rerolls. 75% chance versus 66% chance of hitting. So it's better. So all those mining lasers can rock around. If you're spamming mining lasers, it means all your mining lasers are always rerolling all the hits on their infantry, and all your infantry are also getting AP -1 as autoguns. It means that your damage output is very high. So it's kind of a choice between bladed cog for durability, bladed clog, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? Clogs with blades on them. Bladed cog for durability, which is kind of meta in 9th, or custom trait with AP ammo and Workers Arisen for damage output, and then Hive Coal's also a damage output one. So there you go, guys. I haven't covered absolutely everything, but what I've done is I've highlighted that Genestealer Cult have access to some really interesting little unique things that if you really lean heavily on them will do really well. If you turn up to a battle with 6 trucks with 6 infantry squads in them, and they've all got double mine laser and grenade launcher, your opponent might be like, oh, I'll bring it down. But if he does, he's only getting 12 points in the secondary if he kills every single vehicle. And that's not a maxed out secondary. Which means if you can max out one of your secondaries in return, you're ahead by 3 points. So, there's loads of ways you can do it. You can take three rock grinders, 3 trucks. And don't forget, by the way, rock grinders can take 5 guys in them. What I actually like doing, this is the last thing I want to say, one thing I forgot to say. I know a lot of people have kind of written off acolytes. You can take Atalan Jackals with demo charges, which are the bikers. You can also, don't forget, take 2 demo charges on an acolyte hybrid squad. And what they're quite good at doing is a cheap way of just dropping in 2 demo charges onto an objective, near an objective, and just throwing 2 demo charges at people. That's the way to do it. Acolyte hybrid sort of suicide squads that can throw out demo charges are not bad. You can put some of those in the back of a rock grinder, and then get that rock grinder within 6 inches of the enemy, and you can chuck out 1 demo charge from the cache of demo charges on the truck itself, and then 2 more from the squad in the back. That's within. You have to get within 6 inches, so it's risky. But if you get within 6 inches, you're putting out 3d6 battle cannon shots in one go, and you can get +1 to hit. Now think about how good tank commanders are with their battle cannons. Imagine if you could do that with 3d6 shots. Yeah, it's a Hail Mary, but it's good. And if the vehicle blows up, guess what? If it's got a cache of demo charges, 1 CP, it auto blows up. Not bad for rushing some rock grinders in and blowing them up and catching your enemy by surprise with some mortal wounds. Like I said, Genestealer Cult have tricks, but trying to run up to the enemy and swamp them in combat ain't going to work anymore. You pay too much for it. But you don't pay a premium on your shooting units, because Games Workshop doesn't see us as a shooting faction. So they kind of let that stuff get away. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Hopefully it will spark some brain cells some way and it will get some ideas going, some light bulbs will be going off, or I could be totally wrong and totally mad. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If I've missed anything, put it down there. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.